Hey, if you're new around here, my name is Jeff. This is what I want to think about. I'm walking over to the coffee shop, so why don't you walk with me? We'll walk and talk. If you're new around here, I do this almost every morning. I've been here for a few days, a little under the weather, so most mornings I walk over to the coffee shop. It's a little more than a mile from my house. Been doing this for about 6 years, and it's really my time to really has been my time to think and work things out, right? Um, and so with the Substack, I've started to invite you to walk with me. Maybe we can work some things out together. Something else that I do is I host a show every morning called Java with Jeff. It started out My Morning Mindset, but one of the audience members renamed it and the name stuck. So it's Java with Jeff. And I talk about growth, which is what I want to bring here to Substack as well. And when I talk about growth, I really talk about it through three different lenses, because I think those lenses sort of make up, they're the facets of the holistic human. So personal growth, relationship growth, and professional growth. If you look here on Substack, my notes, I guess, earlier I restacked a post by one of my favorite creators here that always starts with a quote from Ram Dass, and then they write an article, they write a narrative based on that particular quote from Ram Dass. And the one that I restacked this morning really kind of hit, because it's a longer quote and I can never, if you've been around here at all, you know that I can't remember the quotes. I always butcher them, but Ram Dass is talking about the work that we do. That's the external. If it's professional in your business or in your career, you may make certain changes. You may find a new job. You may find a new client, whatever that external is. And it's like this reorganizing or rearranging. If we're talking about growth in relationships, you may set boundaries. You may form a new relationship. You may end a relationship, whatever it is. This is external reorganization. Even personally, in our personal growth, you may do things that are visible, the outward things. Go to the gym more, you lose weight, you gain muscle, you get faster, whatever those things are, whatever the outwardly visible things are related to personal growth. And it may look and feel oftentimes that, you've got things going on, you've got growth going on. That feels good. But then what happens when it doesn't feel good inside? When you realize, you know what? I feel like all of these things are going on, but I'm so tired. I'm tired of doing all of this work for my personal or my relationship or my professional growth, and doing all this work, but I don't feel like I don't, in my soul, I don't feel like things are changing. I don't feel like I'm growing. I don't feel any better than I did at any other point in time. What's the point of all this? It feels very unfulfilling. And so the point of the Ram Dass quote is that, many of those things that we're doing are these external reorganizations, but the key is the internal reorganization and reorienting towards our soul. I thought that's quite a statement. So I'm going to take that really, again, I talk about things through the lens of growth. That's what I do in my show. That's what I do here in Substack. That's what I do professionally. Hi, Dustin. Hi, Scott. And so that's how I'm going to frame my thoughts around this. Feel free to share your thoughts, ask your questions. leave your comments here as we go. Scott and Dustin have heard some of this already this morning. But one of the things that's become very important to me over the last year and a half, maybe something like that, is yoga. It's a practice that I started. I try to get to, ideally about 5 classes a week, but, some weeks just one. But last night I went to Brandy's yin yoga class, which is, if I'm going to protect just one class a week, it's going to be that one. It's the Wednesday night yin yoga. It's called Deep Stretch. And Brandy is a yogi. And as I was talking about earlier on Java with Jeff, last night we did some positions that we haven't done for a while. I haven't done some of these positions in a while over all the classes that I do. And so, there's that newness or revisiting of that, but also they're challenging. There's a reason. They're not necessarily for the faint of heart. They're challenging positions. And Brandy always talks about the need to lean into, the need to embrace discomfort. She says that growth comes out of discomfort, comes from discomfort. So in the physical aspect, in the yoga studio, not pain. Right? We're not looking for pain. That causes injury. I'm looking for discomfort because that's where growth comes from. And Dustin and Scott have both heard me talk about this a lot, but Jeff's definition of the steps of growth it starts with curiosity. We get curious about something, and then we start to believe, just step number 2, that something can help us to grow. And then we believe it enough that we make a decision, which is step 3, to do that thing or to do something about it. And then step 4 is we take action, keep that action going until it becomes part of a regular motion, which is 5, I think. And then we keep that motion, keep executing on that motion till it builds momentum. Just the next step, 6 maybe. And then that momentum drives change, 7. And then change leads to growth. But over all of that is discomfort. None of this. Right? We don't get curious about things because we are comfortable. We don't get curious about, well, what if I did this? Because everything's just going super great. And, why would we? Why would I want to change if everything is great? I can be on the couch and fat and sassy and be curious about absolutely nothing. Climbing over the barricade that you're not supposed to climb over. Don't turn me in. No more ice on the creek right now. But if we're comfortable, we're not likely to seek out change. Almost never, as human beings, right? We get to that point of comfort. We get to that point of stasis. And why would I do anything different? But we can't grow from that point, right? One of my favorite ways to say it is like, if you're comfortable sitting on the couch and eating Doritos, you might grow in some dimensions, but it's probably not the dimension that you want. Probably not the way that you want to grow. So we have to, even if it's just a little bit, we have to lean into that. We have to find that discomfort in order to start getting curious and then start to believe and make a decision to take action and so on and so forth. So Brandy's talking about this leaning into the discomfort. And last night, with those couple of postures that I haven't done for a while, and really challenging postures, They're challenging physically, certainly, but more importantly, in my opinion, challenging mentally. They're challenging the spiritual, the emotional side of you. Because sometimes you find this if you pay attention to anybody that talks about somatic exercises or things. When we there are parts of our bodies where we hold in certain things, certain emotions, and so on. It's really interesting how when we move, what that does for our mood, for our mentality. Go for a walk. I've seen these memes come up, or whatever these posts are called, where they talk about if you're angry, do this. If you're depressed, do this. If you're tired, whatever. And every single one of them is some sort of feeling or emotion. And the antidote to that is some sort of movement. And I find that fascinating. And I find it fascinating that I can go into the yoga studio and do these poses, which are physically challenging, pushing my body. And the class last night, this yin class, stay in these positions for a long time. Randy says from 1 to 10 minutes. It's almost never 1 minute. It's like you're going to be doing this, whatever this is. You're going to be in this position for several minutes. And so we started doing some of these last night, and frankly, I liked. Oh, what do we have? Is that a hawk or is that an owl? Sorry, sort of like my version of squirrel. It's a hawk, I think. I can't see that there. It's right there. I think it's here it goes. The two of them. It's interesting. Wonder if maybe the owls are back, but I think those are hawks. Also, I walk without my contacts in, so not everything is all that clear. Anyway, I actually at times enjoy those very challenging positions and the challenge of doing that work, because sure, from the physical aspect of it. I mean, my body, I'm obviously aging, everybody ages, but my body, after a year and a half or something like that of doing a lot of yoga, I feel better than I have probably in decades. But so there's the physical benefit, but challenging yourself to lean into that discomfort, meaning, hey, I'm doing this and it's physically hard to do this. And my mind immediately wants to revolt against this. My mind immediately wants to cry out. My mind immediately wants to say, we shouldn't be doing this. Or it's uncomfortable to do this. And the practice of quieting your mind and leaning in to that, being quiet, quieting your mind, allowing yourself to say, hey, this is uncomfortable, and I'm going to let that pass. And that's the kind of internal work. I think an example of the kind of internal work that Ram Dass is talking about in that quote. I say this over and over, that we can focus on our business growth or our professional growth. We can focus on our relationship growth. We can even focus on the type of personal growth that is more of that external, what do you say, shuffling, reorganization. But none of it, I don't know if none of it's possible, but we're definitely not going to get to the potential. We're definitely not going to sustain it if we aren't doing the internal work. And that's where I think that's the big part of the Ram Dass quote, the big part of the meaning, right? The reorganization, the internal reorganization, the reorientation towards our souls. Might seem a little bit woo-woo, but how many of us are actually alive? I was thinking about that the other day. How many of us are actually alive, living life, versus going through the motions? When we think about this, I said this earlier, I used to host this show called Context Included Live. Interviewed a lot of people. I forget how many, over 3 years. I used to know this. I used to know how many interviews it was. It was a lot, 150 interviews or something. But one of the guests I tried over and over to get was Carol Dweck, who she's the one, she and her team, her book is called Growth. Her first book. I think that's her first book. It's called Growth, I think. But she and her team at Stanford coined the growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. They did the research that led to those terms, definitions. Tried to get Carol. And as I said earlier, she was always responsive, just busy. And so, when I think about, I've been fascinated for 5, 6 years maybe now about the difference between growth mindset, people with growth mindset, people with fixed mindset. And, this judgmental, I suppose. But if you've got a fixed mindset, it is what it is. This is my lot in life. These are my skills. This is my knowledge. That's where I am. This is where I'm going to be. It's just, there's nothing I can do about it. Right? If that's your mindset, are you living? Again, understanding that can be judgmental maybe, but are you living? Are we living if we're not growing? Right? If I'm lucky, I live in this neighborhood. It's got all these trees, beautiful urban neighborhood with lots of nature. Just a nice thing to have. But if any of these trees stop growing, what does that mean? They don't actually stop growing. If they're literally not growing, they're dead. They're dying. They're not alive. A tree, even in drought conditions, even in whatever, they still display, even in the harshest years, harshest seasons, they still display signs of growth. If we're not growing, are we even living? So when we think about this Ram Dass quote about reorganizing towards our souls, how many of us, that's what we're going to say it, how many of us have lost our souls, but how many of us have lost touch with our souls, our purpose, our passion? However you want to think about that. If we want to grow, if we want to truly grow in a relationship, think about this. A relationship, whatever it is, friends, siblings, significant others, right? In a relationship that's growing, the two people celebrate the growth of each other. They celebrate the passion. They celebrate the excitement. All those things. I see it in you, and I celebrate that because I see that you're growing. I see that you're living. You're thriving, and it's only going to come if we are reorienting to and connecting with our souls. That's how we do it. So I I encourage you to go and look at the article that I restacked. This starts with the quote from Ram Dass. I think it's a very worthwhile read. But think about the work that you're doing internally or not doing internally. Is that where you need to put your focus? We need to let go of all this focus on the external and refocus on our internal work, our internal growth. Something to think about. All right. I made it to the coffee shop and meeting a friend coffee this morning. It's going through a career transition. This seems to be a theme lately. So thanks for walking with me. And I will see you tomorrow.